Hey, Micron family, what is up? Hope you're off to a great weekend. Today's video is going to focus on noise or signals. There's many different pieces of information in the news wires right now related to this stock. We need to jump in and we need to talk about them because many investors had already checked out for the weekend when these articles and these pieces of news hit the wire, and they will most definitely have an impact on the stock on Monday. So let's dive in and talk about what those pieces of information were, what we think the impact will be on Micron at the opening bell on Monday, and specifically, how will I play this? How will I play Micron as we open up the week next week? The question we have to ask ourselves is the AI golden era for Micron over, or are we entering a moment where we may see the best or the greatest opportunity to buy the dip yet in 2026? We're going to discuss that in today's video with the big focus on how do we separate noise from true signals in the marketplace. We're going to break down those stories, as I mentioned, the impact on the stock, and then ultimately what my investment strategy will be when the market opens up on Monday. But if you haven't done it yet, hit like, hit subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate you listening to the video. Let's jump in and talk about those news stories. So the first thing I want to do is just start off with a story, in my opinion, that is just complete noise. And this is the point. There's a lot of articles like this in the marketplace for many different assets, particularly from Micron right now. And we have to learn how to separate these types of articles and the noise away from the headlines and not let it impact our investment strategy, our sentiment for the stock. So this one was actually published earlier today, probably about 2 o'clock Eastern time by The Street. And if you look at the headline, it captures your attention. It may cause some anxiety or some nervousness if you're a Micron investor, how it says Samsung delivers a hard-nosed shocker to Micron. It grabbed my attention. I jumped in and was like, what happened? What did they update? Did they mention anything around their HBM4 product, delivery of that product, partnerships with that product? What impact is this going to have on Micron stock? So I dove into that article right away as soon as I saw it. And in reality, guys, it was just complete noise. I'm going to go through and just show you what I highlighted in the article to demonstrate that. But you can see first, it mentions the price increase for Samsung. We knew that. They're going to increase, they're potentially increasing their HBM4 product by 30%, up to about $700 a unit. That was priced in. That was already shared in the market. No update there. But what's interesting is you look at the next part, great news overall, but not quite as great for those across the Pacific. Micron slipped in early trading despite being in the same market. I don't know what the author is referencing here. Micron had a great day on Friday, finished close to $4.30 a share. It grew 7.6% on the week. I don't know what this author is actually what this author is referencing when you read this. I don't know where you could see that Micron slipped this week. And it goes on also to just talk about, this is an interesting one, the big issue investors can't afford to ignore. When you go on, the only thing I can pick up is that the pricing power in HBM memory or high bandwidth memory is entering a new era. I don't know how that's a concern for Micron. That's a positive piece for Micron and the other players in the HBM market. We know 3 companies dominate 90% of that market. So I don't know how this is a shocker to Micron either. We're going to go down and continue to scroll through. They talk about some of the reasons that why Samsung could benefit from this, DRAM prices going up, things we've talked about. And it did mention that Samsung has been on the ropes for their HBM3E product, that they gave up market share, that they gave up ground to both Micron and SK Hynix. And then hopefully this was a chance for them to get back into the race and recapture some of that share. Agree with that piece overall. And then they go on to say Micron's finances aren't doing that badly. Actually, they're doing fabulous. I don't understand that sentiment from the author, but we'll continue. And then finally, they mentioned that Micron is investing $200 million to build out fabs both in Idaho and New York. More positive sentiment for the stock, given this demand right now, more positive sentiment for the company. So why did Micron stock slip? As you can see here in the top, I, again, don't know what this author is referencing. There's nothing in the article that suggests that. Finally, we get down to the bottom, which there's a statement that I wholeheartedly agree with. They go on to say that, for many times, essentially, memory was perceived as a commodity that went through cycles without mercy. But AI has the potential to rewrite this script. Totally agree. Memory is a different commodity now. It's not in the same boom-bust cycle. We've been talking about that. People's mindsets need to shift, and that's why we see Micron trading at a low forward PE, and why some of the valuations we feel are lower than it should be in the market, because people are thinking of it as a traditional boom bust market. And then finally, the author goes on to say, for now, however, Samsung's pricing ambitions send a clear signal that the memory race is not cooling down. Agree, the demand, we know that, we've seen it, is going to push into 2026, potentially beyond. Some say into 2030. And even if Micron investors hesitated in the short term, I haven't seen any evidence of that. The volume is moving up quite nicely with this stock. Retail investors are coming in on this stock. So again, this is just straight up clickbait, I think, noise in the market. It's one of the things that we have to learn as investors to ignore, to just shift our focus away from. There is no content in there that should change our sentiment whatsoever with the stock or make us worry that this stock is going to change trajectory on Monday morning. Now, there are two signals that most likely, let's say, will have an impact on Monday morning. And I'm going to talk about them because they're competing signals. One is more bullish, one is more bearish. Let's jump in and focus on the bullish one first. And that's going to be right here on the screen. You can see it's what we expected, guys. We expected that the Trump administration would respond after the Supreme Court struck down the tariffs overall. We initially heard a 10% tariff. It actually boosted the tariff now to 15%. So this is the new floor moving forward. And we have to remember the reason why. This is all part of the America First semiconductor policy that aims to reshore, bring manufacturing back here to the U.S., to bring the whole supply chain back here to the U.S., which I'm a big fan of personally. Drop the comments below. Let me know if you are as well. But I'm a big fan of reshoring the American supply here to mitigate risks that we see with this commodity, with this AI build out. It's incredibly important for us to shift away from some of the geopolitical concerns and risks that we see. So that's the reason for the tariffs. In general, how will it affect a company like Micron? Micron in general should have a bullish signal from here. This potentially could, on its own, without anything else in the market, would, I think, push the stock a good 2 to 5% on its own because of the signal. As you know, Micron is the only U.S. manufacturing company that produces this advanced memory, the advanced DRAM, HBM4, as well as NAND products in the U.S. The others, the competing companies they have, as you know, SK Hynix and Samsung are located in Korea. So as the only U.S. manufacturer, they are the primary beneficiary of this. It creates a bit of a moat for them overall. And we know that Micron is building out, massively expanding with a $200 billion investment, both in Idaho, New York, some expansion as well in Virginia to help meet the demand and help to just give confidence to the administration for their commitment in building manufacturing here in the U.S., bringing jobs here to the U.S., producing these advanced products here in the U.S. So it creates an opportunity for them to not face the tariffs. Like I said, it sets a new 15% floor for competitors like SK Hynix and Samsung. And that 15% floor could even get higher if any of those components from those companies, if they receive components for their products from China, that tariff could even get higher. So in general, guys, this is a positive sentiment overall for Micron. I think we have to view it that way. We'll see what happens. We know these temporary orders are good for about 150 days. We know the administration is looking to find other opportunities to have a more permanent solution. But I think in general, for a company like Micron, being a U.S. base, building our supply here, they have a goal of 40% of their product. I'm sorry, I was blanking on the name that they put on Destiny 40. Sorry, blanked on it for a moment. I'm going to do a video on that tomorrow. Make sure you listen to that because it's really a bullish, ambitious play for Micron. It has me excited about it. But Destiny 40, I'm going to drop a video on that tomorrow. But it's a positive thing overall for Micron. They do face some tariffs with some of their components that move around, but the fact that they can continue to build out their facilities in their U.S. and produce their advanced memory here in the U.S., it'll give them an advantage over the competitors. Now let's jump to a signal that is a bearish signal, and I think will have an impact on the stock overall. And I want to jump to that next. And that is an issue that has been kind of weighing on Micron since 2024. And you can see on your screen here, Netlist bags the Federal Circuit win after a Texas court or a court rejects Micron's patent challenge. So that's the headline that hit the cycle. That is a true signal for the stock. And I want to talk about the impact of that overall on Micron and what I anticipate it will be. We know, as I mentioned, that Micron has been dealing with this weight over them since 2024, when there was a decision that was ultimately leveled against them for a 445 million jury verdict in 2024. So they appealed it, and just this yesterday, the U.S. Court of Appeals issued the ruling in favor of Netlist, upholding the validity of its memory module patents and rejecting Micron's appeal overall. So this is a true signal overall, and it's not. The noise right now is that this is going to bankrupt Micron. I've heard some people say it. The $450 million judgment is going to bankrupt them, and that's absolutely ridiculous. This is a company that is sitting on $15 billion liquidity and is projected to do $60 billion in revenues this year. That is not the signal at all. That's noise if you hear that. The true signal is that this isn't just about a one-time $445 million fine. The real issue is that Micron, the jury originally found Micron, their infringement to be willful. And what that means is the presiding judge in Texas now has the authority to potentially triple the damages, potentially ballooning that 445 million judgment to 1.3 billion. That's a true signal. It can have an impact on the stock. That will get investors worried, both retail and institutional investors. And even more critical, Micron has no leverage in this play at all. They have zero leverage. They're likely now will be forced to negotiate a licensing agreement for all high bandwidth memory and DDR5 products that they've sold since that judgment. So since 2024, this would create a massive reoccurring expense for the company. We have to keep our eye on key houses like Goldman Sachs to see if they lower the margin forecast. If they lower their 53% margin forecast next week for Micron, that's a true signal for us to be cautious as well with the stock. I think on top of it, Netlist, also has the opportunity to file with the International Trade Commission to block any imports of products that are infringing products, I would say. And this appeal gives Netlist immense leverage to seek a cease and desist order, which would disrupt Micron's chain, particularly disrupted right now at a peak AI demand cycle. So I would look to see after this judgment, we'll have to keep our eye on to see if it gets tripled, to see if they award more than just the 445. We'll also look to see if there's any type of agreement reached between Micron and Netlist to block any of that cease and desist order that could impact their ability to bring products in, to import products in to help them build out and meet this demand in the AI cycle. So I would say, guys, in closing, I would expect volatility from Micron at the beginning of next week, which is a shame because we've seen such strong news coming out, such strong sentiment to finish the stock. We did see a little bit in after hours of coming down to about 426 a share. I'm going to keep my eye on that as we head into the market on Monday morning. I'll send any updates out. I may drop a post on my YouTube channel, or so keep your eye on that. But I would expect volatility on Monday morning. While Micron is currently trading, around that 430, is seen as the darling in this space. We were hoping these prices would push towards 450, 500. This legal blow creates conflicting pressures, I would say. And this is the way I will read it. Maybe you read it differently. If you do, drop it in the columns. But I think when you look just from a bearish perspective, we can expect a short-term dip. I think institutional investors hate legal uncertainty. The specter or the potential for a $1.3 billion fine and a mandatory licensing deal, which could eat into Micron's 65% operating margins, may trigger a sell-off or a cool-down period with this stock from the recent highs. Something to keep our eyes on. But now, if you look at it from a bullish perspective, some analysts that have argued or will argue that the 1.3 billion is a drop in the bucket for a company that's expected to earn over 60 billion this year. And if the market views this verdict as a clear the moment, remember, they've been dealing with this over their kind of strapped around their neck or wrapped around their neck since 2024. It's been built into the price in a sense. My belief is if they view this as a clear the moment for the stock, where Micron simply pays the settlement and moves on, the dip will be bought up quickly in the market. So for me, I think Monday morning, this is what I expect. As I mentioned, I expect there will be a knee-jerk reaction to this news. We'll see a dip. We might even see close to a 3 to a 5% pullback. What I'm going to be doing personally is I'm watching that 410 level of support. If it holds there, it's a sign that institutional buyers are looking past the legal fees. They're focusing on the HBM4 product. They're focusing on other opportunities for Micron in the market. For me personally, I am not selling. I am staying. I'm holding my shares of Micron. I'm going to be looking to see if the stock drops. If it drops below that 410, as I mentioned, if it gets down below 400, let's say into the 390, I'll be looking to add more to my position of Micron. The signal that of U.S. manufacturing dominance and the 50% gross margins that Micron has is far louder to me personally than the noise of a patent dispute that we see in the market. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Those are the two true signals I wanted to share that have hit the market with Micron right now. How is it affecting your investment strategy? Are you changing? Are you more bearish now with the stack? Does this make you even more bullish? Are you going to look for ways to buy the dip? But I just love to hear your comments. Like, I engage with you. I answer each and every one. But I hope you're having a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing the next video. Take care.